الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تأكلوا أموالكم بينكم بالباطل إلا أن تكون تجارة عن تراض منكم صدق الله العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي رب زدني علما. My respected elders and brothers, 2 weeks before we were discussing this topic, that Islam is not just a religion, it's a way of life. 2 Jummahs we have been speaking regarding it. This is the third installment in this series. I'll quickly review in a minute what was mentioned. We had mentioned that all the ahkam, all the legal rulings in Islam, if we check them or if we pick up a book of fiqh, starting from tahara, waking up in the morning, taking a shower, using the bathroom, until mirath, laws of inheritance. When a person dies, the last ruling is inheritance. There is nothing after it. So starting from tahara, laws of cleanliness, until mirath, laws of inheritance, if we combine all this, and it's combined in a book of fiqh, we will come to know that legal rulings related to ibadat, the acts of worship, are only 1/4 of deen. The remaining 3/4 of deen, or 3/4 of the teachings of Islam, are related to ma'amalat, dealings, ma'asharat, social life. And we had mentioned that Islam is a composition of 5 categories. Aqaid, in English we say beliefs. Second, ibadat, in English we say acts of worship. Third, ma'amalat, translated as dealings. Fourth, ma'asharah, social life. Fifth, akhlaqiyat, inner ethics, being generous, being sincere, not being arrogant, not having grudge and animosity for others. These are inner ethics, akhlaqiyat. Once these 5 things are combined and we are all striving for it, then in the sight of Allah we are considered a complete Muslim. If we are only focusing on salah, fasting, hajj, but our business is haram, our dealings are not according to deen, then we are an incomplete Muslim in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we ended at the example of one of our pious predecessors, that how when he traveled on a train, without asking anyone, without the asking or inquiring from anyone, he paid the fees for the extra baggage that he was carrying, because that was the law of the land at that time. And he didn't want to break it, though he got the offer of just waiving the fees. So moving forward, moving on the same principle, that problems or deficiencies or shortcomings in ma'amalats, in dealings, affects our salah also, affects our ibadat also. And sometimes it's a huge sin in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The ayah that I recited in front of you, Allah says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O people who believe, La ta'kulu amwalakum, do not eat, consume, use each other's wealth, bil batil, in a wrongful manner, by deceiving someone, by breaking the contract that you have signed. Meaning, do not consume each other's wealth in a haram way. إِلَّا أَن تَكُونَ تِجَارَةً عَن تَرَاضٍ مِّنْكُمْ, except that it is a business or a transaction or a contract that is mutually agreed between the parties. So if I'm using somebody else's property, I'm using somebody else's wealth, it should be with his pleasure, with his agreement, with his with his permission. Mutual agreement has to be there. What does it mean? Sometimes we think we are not using anybody's property without his permission or his or her consent, but we are in fact doing it. Very common examples. I'll share 2 examples, and it happens with all of us. most of us, whether we are from the subcontinent, from Arab countries, non-Arab countries, wherever we are, unfortunately, this is the common deficiency, a problem in the Muslim Ummah today. A father starts a business. The oldest son enters the business after 2-3 years. On what terms has he entered the business? Is he a salaried employee of the father? Is he a shareholder in the business? Two options. Third option, he's neither a shareholder nor a salaried employee. The father is saying, just work and I'll give you whatever you want. Three options are there. Which option has been finalized? Okay. For example, this is common in joint families. The son starts sitting at the store. Father says, you don't have to pay rent. You don't have to pay the bills. Groceries come in at home collectively. Just tell me how much money you need to sustain you and your wife and your children. I'll give it to you from the store. This is the third option that I mentioned. So what are the terms on which he's entering? He enters, he works. 2 years afterwards, the second son enters. The third son enters. Business grows into 1, 2, 3, 4 shops. It spreads. The father passes away. Now, where is it written? How much share does each son have? Are all employees or are all of them stakeholders in the business? The oldest son takes control of everything. He does not distribute the inheritance. The sisters, the daughters cannot say anything. They are afraid of the brother. What will he say? Eventually, they all get married. Their sons grow up and their daughters grow up. And then the problem starts. They start fighting with each other. Now they go to the mufti. Now they go to the Imam Sahib. The poor Imam Sahib is in trouble now. They have complexed the situation to such an extent, even the Imam cannot solve it. He has to trace it back all the way to the father, the founder of the business. What were the terms on which you started and entered the business? They say, Imam Sahib, I had nothing in mind. My father never cleared it to me. A very common example. This is eating, consuming each other's wealth without permission, without mutual consent and agreement. A father builds a house. He has 2 sons and 2 daughters. The son is also working, the daughter is also working. Both of them help the father in the monthly installment that goes. The daughter gets married, she leaves the house. The son grows up, he gets married, he fits himself in the basement. The second son gets married, he moves to the second floor. The kids are growing up. Now all of them have to move out. Maybe one son doesn't ask for the father for anything, though he paid maybe 1/4 or towards the installments of the house. But he has enough money, he buys another house for himself. Maybe the second son is not in a good financial situation. He says he wants to move out and he asks the father, give me my share. The father says, what share are you talking about? This is my house. My name is written on the deed. Because they didn't know the terms on which they participated with each other. Maybe the father passed away. And then they fight that whose house is this in the first place? Does it belong to the father? Does it belong to the mother? Does it belong to both of them? Or does it belong to either of the sons? Are they a shareholder, or would they only receive from the share of their inheritance? So these are common examples on which this ayat fits. The ulama say that we don't know what we are doing, how we are planning. We are not just creating problems for ourselves. We are creating problems for our future generations. हमारे बच्चों में जो लड़ाई और इख्तिलाफ होगा उसके हम जिम्मेदार होंगे, क्योंकि हमने ऐसे गफलत के साथ जिंदगी गुजारी. ना घर बनाते हुए ये सोचा ये किसका घर है, ना कारोबार बनाते हुए चलाते हुए ये सोचा कि ये किसका कारोबार है. That's why the principle in deen is ta'asharu kal ikhwan, ta'amalu kal ajanib. A very famous principle in Arabic. How does it translate in English? Live and spend a social life with each other like brothers. So socially dealing, you should be like brothers, as one Muslim is the brother of another Muslim. Ta'amalu kal ajanib. Exactly in the second sentence it says, deal with each others like strangers. So the first sentence is saying live like brothers, and the second sentence is saying deal like strangers. ये उसूल है. इस मामलात का दीन में कि रहो आपस में भाइयों की तरह, लेकिन मामलात करो अजनबियों की तरह। क्या मतलब है? एक भाई अपने सगे भाई से कर्जा लेता है और उसको कहता है कि लिखत पढ़त कर लेते हैं, जिंदगी का कोई भरोसा नहीं है, मुझे तुम्हारे इतने पैसे लौटाने हैं ताकि मेरी औलाद को पता हो कि मैं मकरूज हूं। तो भाई कहता है कि ये क्या है भाई, गैरत कहाँ गई तुम्हारे अंदर? हम भाई भाई हैं, हमें भी लिखने की जरूरत है, मैं नहीं लिखूंगा। ये गलत है, ये गैरत नहीं है, ये बेदीनी है माजरत के साथ। कल को जब भाई की औलाद लड़ेगी उस वक्त गैरत कहाँ आएगी? गैरत बचाने आएगी उनकी मोहब्बत को, उनके रिश्ते को। दीनदारी ये है कि हर चीज लिखी जाए, चाहे सगे भाई सगे बहन के साथ मामला हो, तो फिर दीन की भी हिफाजत होगी, खानदानी रिश्ते की भी हिफाजत होगी। तो आज इतना हम दीन से दूर चले गए हैं, मैं भी शामिल हूं इसके अंदर। A real brother, a blood brother takes a loan from another real brother, and Islam says you should write it down, though you are real brothers, but you should deal like strangers as you don't know him. When you are doing a business transaction from an ajnabi, from a stranger, how careful you are, how many precautions you take, how many clauses you make sure your lawyer puts in the contract. So if that person runs away, you can get the entire government after him. Islam says as much caution is needed in general situations, the caution should be needed in a case of a brother also. Maybe not all these things, suing or something. You don't want to go into that detail, that's fine. But basic writing should be there, that I have taken loan from my brother, this much amount, for this much amount of time, I have to pay it back. And there should be the sign of one or two witnesses on it. And both brothers should sign on it. This is deen. This is what Islam teaches us. But today, if somebody tries to do it, they say, how dare you do it? Okay? We are brothers. How can we even think about writing? We trust each other. But my respected elders and brothers, money is a very dangerous thing. You know better than me, who are older than me and sitting here, that money, property, assets brings fights between blood brothers also. This is the biggest cause of the breaking of the family today. Brothers who were brought up in the lap of one mother, brothers who used to play with each other and used to cry for each other, now don't want to see the face of each other because one thinks the other took my money by deceiving me. Why this is happening? Because transactions are not clear. تَأْكُلُوا أَمْوَالَكُمْ بِالْبَاطِلِ. You are eating each other's wealth by deceiving each other in a wrongful manner. So this is ma'amalat, this is deen. Once again, I mentioned this before also. We might be a tahajjud prayer. I might be the imam of the masjid. I might be giving donation to the masjid. But if my ma'amalats are not clear, my transactions are not clear, we will be asked on the day of judgment. This imamat will not save me on the day of judgment if I had borrowed money from someone and I had not returned it to him. This imamat will not save me. Unless that person forgives me on the day of judgment, Allah will drag me in the hellfire. So each and every one of us, whether it's me or whether it's you, we should look into our transactions. We should make sure everything is clean. The word that we give, the promises that we make, the transactions that we sign, especially with the relatives, it's the opposite, Unfortunately, it's opposite. We should be more careful with our relatives and our those who are attached with us in blood as compared to others. It's the other way around today. I might be afraid, मुझे इस बात का डर होगा मेरी इज्जत ज़माने में ख़राब हो जाएगी तो क्या होगा, मुझे इस बात का डर नहीं है कि मैं अपने भाई और बहन को धोखा दे रहा हूँ, हालांकि उनका हक मुझ पे ज़्यादा है, उल्टा हिसाब हो गया आजकल. So this is basically the purpose of this topic is just salah and hajj and donation and zakat is not just deen. It's a good part of deen. But we have to look into our everyday life from the morning till the evening. This is just an example of ma'amalats. Inshallah, we will continue with this and slowly switch to ma'asharat also, social life, that what are the problems me and you are facing in these cases also. Whatever was said and heard, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the understanding of these things. Ameen. If the brothers can stand up, inshallah, before we start our sunnah, and we can fill in the gaps, inshallah. कोने पे चले जाओ, you go in the corner. इसी लाइन में